Back in 2020, these inmates at Ware State Prison live-streamed a full-blown prison riot for the world to see. One inmate even showed off his stash of makeshift weapons, proudly lining up all his air-quote tools he had managed to gather behind bars. As you'll see in this video, these stories aren't for the faint-hearted. They reveal just how far inmates and even wardens are willing to go to fight for control. Ware State Prison Riot, Georgia, 2020. Our first story takes us to Waycross, Georgia, on a summer night that would forever change the narrative around prison security and oversight. On August 1, 2020, at approximately 10:45 p.m., what began as simmering tension at Ware State Prison erupted into one of the most extensively documented prison riots in recent American history. The Ware State Prison riot occurred against a backdrop of multiple institutional failures and growing unrest. Just weeks before, on July 17th, an inmate named Robert Wilson had died following an altercation at the facility, sparking rumors and anger among the prison population. This incident, combined with mounting COVID-19 concerns, 22 inmates and 32 staff members had tested positive, with 2 inmate deaths reported, created a powder keg of tension. As night fell on August 1st, that powder keg ignited. Inmates initiated a disturbance that would last for hours, with officers deploying non-lethal ammunition in response. By 1 a.m. on August 2nd, the Georgia Department of Corrections, GDC, had confirmed the situation was under control and the prison was placed on lockdown. The official toll: 2 staff members and 3 inmates with non-life-threatening injuries, a golf cart set on fire, and several broken windows. But what made this riot particularly significant was what happened during those chaotic hours. Inmates used smuggled cell phones to live stream the aftermath, with videos circulating rapidly across social media platforms. These raw, unfiltered broadcasts revealed scenes that would otherwise have remained hidden behind prison walls. The footage was graphic and disturbing. One video showed an inmate covered in blood, with others attempting to clean what appeared to be a gunshot wound. Another captured a brief moment of solidarity as 2 inmates held hands while tending to injuries. Perhaps most tellingly, multiple clips showed inmates walking freely throughout the prison grounds, indicating a complete loss of institutional control. Fires burned in the background, adding to the apocalyptic atmosphere. What makes these live streams particularly significant is how they contradicted the sanitized official narrative. While the GDC reported only minor, non-life-threatening injuries, the videos told a different story, one of bloodied bodies, desperate improvised medical care, and widespread chaos. The Georgia Department of Corrections remained largely silent about the videos, declining requests for comment. However, a spokesperson for the Human and Civil Rights Coalition of Georgia acknowledged the prison's lockdown status, and an ex-post from the coalition on August 2, 2020, provided additional context, linking to images of the riot. The broader context of Ware State Prison makes these live streams even more significant. Former corrections officers later revealed to investigative journalists that the facility suffered from severe staffing shortages, with approximately 15 officers per shift responsible for around 1,500 inmates, an impossible ratio for maintaining security. Inmates had been complaining about inhumane conditions, including lack of running water and power outages, as evidenced by videos sent to news outlets showing desperate pleas for basic necessities. The aftermath of the riot and its live-streamed evidence led to significant consequences. A civil rights organization requested a federal investigation, and the Department of Justice likely launched a probe into Georgia's prison system, focusing on the systemic problems that contributed to the riot: deteriorating conditions, staffing shortages, and a pattern of neglect that had been building for years. The Ware State Prison riot live streams represent a pivotal moment in prison documentation, a raw, unmediated glimpse into the consequences of institutional failure and neglect. By broadcasting these moments to the outside world, inmates fundamentally changed the narrative, forcing acknowledgement of conditions that might otherwise have remained hidden, and ultimately contributing to calls for reform that continue to echo through Georgia's correctional system today. Rikers Island Livestream, New York, 2016. From Georgia, we travel north to one of America's most notorious correctional facilities, Rikers Island in New York City. Here, on July 22, 2016, an inmate named Shamel Robinson made a decision that would expose the harsh realities of life inside this infamous jail complex to thousands of viewers. Unlike the chaotic riot at Ware State Prison, Robinson's live stream was a deliberate narrated tour of prison life, one that would reveal both the dangerous conditions inside Rikers and the surprising ease with which inmates could access prohibited technology. Using a smuggled cell phone, Robinson broadcast live on Facebook from his cell, offering viewers an unfiltered look at his living conditions. He showcased his uniform, leftover food, and the cramped confines of his jail cell. But what made this broadcast particularly alarming was when Robinson brandished a homemade knife, which he referred to as a scalpel, stating it was made for protection. "Want to see that chop? It's a scalpel," Robinson said during the live stream, emphasizing the dangerous environment at Rikers Island. He explicitly claimed the video was intended to highlight the poor conditions and treatment of inmates, asserting that officers felt inmates had no say, no rights, no freedom of speech. The broadcast garnered over 7,000 views before being removed, significantly amplifying Robinson's message about life inside one of America's most troubled jails. While his live stream didn't depict active violence, the presence of a weapon and his commentary about the constant threat of harm provided indirect evidence of the brutality that defined daily life for inmates. The timing of Robinson's broadcast was particularly significant. Just days earlier, a corrections officer at Rikers Island had been slashed in the face with a blade similar to the one Robinson displayed, requiring 5 stitches. This incident had prompted stricter security measures, including enhanced front gate procedures, requiring all individuals to pass through metal detectors. Yet Robinson claimed in his video that he had walked through these detectors with the smuggled cell phone, revealing critical security gaps. The broader context of Rikers Island made Robinson's livestream even more impactful. The facility has long been criticized for its culture of violence, poor conditions, and inadequate oversight. In August 2014, U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara had released a report highlighting a deep-seated culture of violence targeting adolescent inmates, leading to legal actions and calls for reform. The consequences for Robinson were swift and severe. Following his live stream, he was initially released from Rikers Island before authorities became aware of the video. However, upon discovery of the broadcast, he was rearrested on August 1, 2016, on charges of felony possession of jail contraband. His bail was set at $150,000, and his next court date was scheduled for August 5, 2016. Robinson's case occurred amid a reported 43% increase in contraband fines in 2016 compared to the previous year, indicating a growing issue with unauthorized items entering the facility. In response, Rikers Island had installed 100 new surveillance cameras and was seeking approval for full body scanners to detect small weapons like the homemade knife shown in the video. What makes Robinson's live stream particularly notable in our examination is how it differed from other cases. Unlike the Ware State Prison riot, which captured the aftermath of violence, Robinson's broadcast was premeditated, a calculated exposé of prison conditions by someone who understood exactly what he was revealing to the public. It demonstrated not just the potential for violence, but the everyday reality of having to arm oneself for survival in a place like Rikers. The incident contributed to the ongoing discourse on the need for reform, with Robinson's video serving as a public exposure of conditions that inmates faced. While specific follow-up on this incident is limited in available records, it aligns with broader efforts that eventually led to plans for the closure of Rikers Island by 2027, as mandated by a 2019 City Council law. Robinson's live stream ultimately raised critical questions about the feasibility of preventing contraband, particularly cell phones, in large correctional facilities. It highlighted the potential for social media to amplify inmate voices, creating both opportunities for advocacy and challenges for security in an increasingly connected world. HMP Birmingham Livestream, England, 2018. Our next case takes us across the Atlantic to England, where on April 25, 2018, inmates at HMP Birmingham used technology to broadcast a very different kind of prison experience, one that would expose not just violence, but a culture of drug use, contraband, and decay in one of the UK's major correctional facilities. The 15-minute video, broadcast on Periscope by a user named Ray, was provocatively titled "English Jail Inside with iPhone Smoking Callie." The footage featured 6 inmates who jokingly called themselves the Slider Gang due to their matching blue and white striped flip-flops. Unlike some of the other live streams we've examined, which captured violent incidents or their aftermath, this broadcast was a deliberate showcase of prohibited activities taking place openly within the prison walls. The content was brazen and alarming. One inmate was seen smoking what appeared to be a cannabis joint, while another displayed a bag of weed, using the slang term Cali for cannabis. The inmates were openly using mobile phones, with one even mentioning a phone charger, suggesting a comfortable established presence of contraband devices. The group listened to music, played pool, and shared a rolled cigarette, all within a cell environment that seemed entirely free from supervision. Perhaps most tellingly, the video revealed the dilapidated state of the facility. A door with a smashed window, jagged glass exposed, and a rubbish-strewn communal area, indicating poor maintenance and oversight. The inmates also referenced prison guards, with one warning that the screw is active, indicating awareness of a patrolling female officer, yet they continued their broadcast without apparent concern for consequences. The context of HMP Birmingham makes this incident particularly significant. Located in Winson Green, this Category B prison was managed by G4S, a private security company, at the time of the incident. The prison had a troubled history, including a major riot in 2016 involving 500 inmates that lasted over 12 hours, causing £2 million in damage and affecting 4 wings. That riot had highlighted chronic staff shortages and inadequate security measures, issues that apparently remained unresolved by 2018. The live streaming was not even the first such incident at the facility. In 2015, inmates had previously filmed and shared a rap video, indicating ongoing issues with contraband devices. A 2016 Independent Monitoring Board assessment had reported that 52% of inmates found it easy to obtain drugs, up from 37% in 2014, underscoring a persistent drug problem that the live stream would later confirm visually for the public. The response from prison authorities was swift, but ultimately insufficient. Rob Kellett, the prison director, condemned the behavior as unacceptable and stated that those involved would face disciplinary action, potentially including additional sentence time. However, the incident highlighted the ease of accessing mobile phones and drugs, raising serious questions about G4S's management. The consequences extended far beyond disciplinary actions for the inmates involved. Later in 2018, the Ministry of Justice seized control of HMP Birmingham from G4S following a damning inspection report that cited high levels of violence, squalid conditions, and widespread drug use. While not solely caused by the live stream, the incident likely contributed to this decision, serving as visual evidence of the claims made in the inspection report. The HMP Birmingham Livestream differed from other cases we've examined in several key ways. Unlike the Ware State Prison riot, which captured violence and its aftermath, or Robinson's Rikers Island broadcast, which focused on a weapon and safety concerns, the Birmingham video showcased a more casual but equally troubling reality. Inmates openly flaunting rules without fear of consequences in conditions of neglect and disrepair. This case illustrates how live streaming can expose not just acute incidents of violence, but chronic systemic failures, the everyday breakdown of order, discipline, and care that can make prisons dangerous places for both inmates and staff. The blatant nature of the prohibited activities, inmates smoking drugs on camera, displaying contraband phones, and discussing guard movements, painted a picture of a facility where rules had become suggestions and security was more theoretical than actual. The Birmingham case also highlights the particular challenges of private prison management, with critics arguing that profit motives may compromise security and rehabilitation efforts. The government takeover that followed within months of the live stream suggests these concerns had merit, at least in this instance. In the end, what makes the HMP Birmingham live stream one of the most significant prison broadcasts is how it revealed not just individual misconduct, but institutional collapse, a visual testament to what happens when oversight fails and accountability disappears within correctional systems. LA County Jails Surveillance Videos, 2019 to 2022. While not live streams in the traditional sense, our next case involves videos that profoundly impacted public understanding of prison violence. Surveillance footage from Los Angeles County jails that was released in November 2023 after a lengthy legal battle. These videos, covering incidents from October 24, 2019 to July 4, 2022, exposed disturbing patterns of guard-on-inmate violence that had persisted despite years of reform efforts. The unsealed videos, 6 in total, range in length from 14 seconds to over 15 minutes, with most being silent and identities blurred to protect privacy. Unlike inmate-shot live streams, these came from the facility's own surveillance systems, providing an official, if unwitting, documentation of abuse. The content is deeply disturbing. Deputies are seen punching inmates repeatedly, including one incident where a handcuffed inmate is struck while on the ground. In another clip, a deputy kneels on an inmate's neck for nearly a minute, an action the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, LASD, described as inadvertent, but was disputed by the ACLU. Perhaps most shocking, 2 deputies are shown slamming a handcuffed inmate's head into a wall, captured in a 14-second clip from July 2022. The videos also document the controversial use of restraint devices. Deputies apply the wrap restraint device, likened to a straitjacket, on an inmate bleeding profusely after a head strike. A spit mask was also used, despite the inmate not spitting, raising concerns about misuse. One particularly disturbing video shows an inmate with a fractured orbital bone, moaning in pain, while deputies fail to provide immediate medical attention. These videos emerged in the context of the Rosas versus Luna class action lawsuit filed in 2012 by the ACLU of Southern California, the ACLU's National Prison Project, and Paul Hastings LLP. The lawsuit accused the LASD of systemic excessive force, referencing a 2011 ACLU report, Cruel and Unusual Punishment, which documented deputy violence. A settlement had been reached in November 2014 and approved in April 2015, mandating reforms including robust use-of-force policies and zero tolerance for dishonest reporting. However, the videos revealed that excessive force continued despite these measures. In June 2023, the ACLU sought to modify the consent decree, citing the LASD's failure to meet key obligations. And on November 9, 2023, U.S. District Judge Dean D. Pregerson unsealed the videos at the request of the Los Angeles Times and Witness L.A. The LASD's response to the release was measured but defensive. They acknowledged the videos but emphasized that they represented only 6 of millions of interactions over 2.5 years, occurring under a prior sheriff's administration. They claimed policy changes had led to a 17% reduction in use-of-force incidents in 2022 and a further 20% in 2023. However, disciplinary actions appeared minimal. The deputy who knelt on an inmate's neck was disciplined for dishonest reporting, not the act itself, and in 4 of the 6 videos, no deputies were believed to have been disciplined. What makes these videos particularly significant in our examination is how they differ from inmate-shot live streams. While prisoners' broadcasts provide raw, unfiltered glimpses of prison life, these surveillance videos offer an institutional perspective, what the system itself recorded but never intended for public viewing. They reveal not just individual incidents, but patterns of behavior that suggest cultural problems within the LASD. The ACLU's Corinne Kendrick, deputy director of the National Prison Project, criticized the LASD for not following policies, risking serious injury or death. She questioned the accuracy of improved statistics, noting the significant delay between the incidents and the video releases. Peter Eliasberg, ACLU chief counsel, described the videos as showing unnecessary force in a variety of different guises, with the head slam incident being particularly brutal. The Los Angeles County Jail videos illuminate how institutional violence can persist despite oversight, consent decrees, and reform efforts. They demonstrate the critical importance of transparency and the role that video evidence, whether from inmates' phones or official surveillance, plays in exposing abuse that might otherwise remain hidden behind prison walls. Robert Brooks, death at Marcy Correctional Facility, New York, 2024. Perhaps the most recent and disturbing case in our examination occurred at Marcy Correctional Facility in New York on December 9, 2024. While not a live stream initiated by inmates, this incident was captured on official body cameras worn by correctional officers, a technology implementation that would ultimately expose one of the most shocking cases of fatal abuse in recent prison history. Robert Brooks, a 43-year-old black man, was transferred from Mohawk Correctional Facility to Marcy Correctional Facility due to safety concerns following altercations with other inmates. Upon arrival, what should have been a routine transfer process descended into a brutal assault by multiple correctional officers. Body camera footage, released on December 27, 2024, by the New York Attorney General's office, documented a horrifying sequence of events. Officers were seen punching, kicking, and striking Brooks while he was handcuffed and compliant, with a pre-existing facial injury. The assault began in the facility's arsenal, continued across the grounds, and culminated in the infirmary, suggesting not a moment of lost control but a sustained pattern of abuse. The consequences were fatal. Brooks was pronounced dead at Wynn Hospital in Utica, New York on December 10, 2024. A preliminary examination identified the cause of death as asphyxia due to compression of the neck with multiple blunt force injuries. A February 2025 autopsy officially ruled the death a homicide, confirming the severity of the assault. The response from New York authorities was swift and substantial. Governor Kathy Hochul, following an internal review, ordered the termination of 13 correctional officers and 1 nurse involved in the incident. The New York Attorney General Letitia James released body camera footage to the public after Brooks's family viewed it, emphasizing transparency. The FBI announced an investigation through its Albany field office to examine potential federal violations. By February 20th, 2025, 6 correctional officers, Nicholas Anzalone, David Kingsley, Anthony Farina, Christopher Walrath, Matthew Gallagher, and 1 unnamed officer, were indicted on charges of second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. Additional charges included second-degree gang assault and offering a false instrument for filing. 3 other individuals faced second-degree manslaughter charges, and 1 was charged with tampering with physical evidence. In total, 10 individuals were charged, with several entering not guilty pleas and some released on bond. What makes this case particularly significant is how it exposed systemic issues at Marcy Correctional Facility. The Correctional Association of New York, CANY, had conducted a monitoring visit in October 2022, publishing findings in July 2023. The report noted that 80% of incarcerated individuals witnessed or experienced physical abuse by staff, and 70% reported racial discrimination or bias. Quotes from inmates included statements like, "Physical abuse is rampant. The CO told me when I got here, this is a hands-on facility. We're going to put hands on you if we don't like what you're doing." The public response to the footage was immediate and powerful. The release sparked widespread outrage, leading to protests in Manhattan and Albany. Demonstrators held signs reading "Black Lives Matter" and "Justice for Robert Brooks," demanding accountability and reform. Black activists and organizations rallied outside Governor Hochul's Manhattan office, condemning the brutal murder of Brooks. Case catalyzed demands for systemic change in New York's prison system. CANY called for the termination of all staff involved in Brooks's death and urged Governor Hochul and the state legislature to implement bold transparency and accountability measures. By the end of the 2024 legislative session, at least 11 bills related to prison transparency, accountability, and monitoring were pending. The death of Robert Brooks differs from our other cases in several key ways. Unlike inmate-initiated live streams, this footage came from officially mandated body cameras, technology implemented for accountability that fulfilled exactly that purpose, though in a tragic context. It also represents the most severe outcome possible, a death in custody directly attributed to staff actions, captured in undeniable detail. This case highlights the dual-edged nature of surveillance in correctional settings. The same cameras meant to protect officers and document inmate misconduct instead became witnesses to officer brutality. The deployment of body cameras at Marcy in May 2024 proved critical in documenting the incident, prompting calls for their widespread adoption across all state facilities, a technological solution to a deeply human problem of abuse and impunity. The Brooks case illustrates how video evidence, whether from inmate phones or official equipment, has become essential to exposing prison violence and driving reform. Without this footage, it's entirely possible that Brooks's death would have been attributed to other causes or minimized in official reports. Another statistic rather than a catalyst for change. Arizona prison assaults and security failures, 2020 to 2021. Our final case study takes us to Arizona, where leaked surveillance videos from 2020 to 2021 exposed violent assaults, not by officers against inmates, but by inmates against correctional officers, highlighting a different dimension of prison brutality and the systemic failures that enable it. Unlike inmate-initiated live streams, these videos came from official surveillance systems and were leaked to media outlets, particularly ABC 15 Arizona, which obtained and reported them as part of an investigative series called Unlocked and Unsafe. The first incident occurred on November 3, 2020, at the Cimarron unit in Tucson Prison Complex. Surveillance footage showed inmates assaulting a corrections officer for approximately 2 minutes, subjecting him to punching, kicking, stomping, and strikes with an OC pepper spray canister. Despite the severity of the attack, the officer managed to escape without serious injuries. However, the video revealed alarming security failures. Short staffing meant no immediate backup was available, and the officer's radio and phone were inoperative, forcing him to contact his own unit for assistance after escaping. The second major incident captured on leaked video took place on June 21, 2021, in the Florence prison kitchen. An inmate with a high-risk classification and a history of assaults beat an officer for about 30 seconds, resulting in injuries severe enough that the officer had to be airlifted to the hospital. Critically, the inmate was on a custody override, meaning his security level had been lowered, allowing him to be in the kitchen despite his risk profile. A third incident, reported by Corrections 1, occurred on May 29, 2021, when more than a dozen inmates coordinated to trap 2 correctional officers in a caged stairwell for about 1.5 minutes to facilitate a contraband exchange on a higher floor. The inmates involved were part of a step-down program, which uses inmate leaders, often gang-affiliated, to maintain order, rewarding them with privileges and leniency. These videos expose several critical systemic issues within Arizona's prison system. The practice of custody overrides, adjusting an inmate's security level outside standard classifications, had apparently become widespread, with a 2019 ABC 15 investigation revealing thousands of inmates on such overrides. The Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation and Reentry, ADCRR, declined to provide data on the total number of overrides, indicating a lack of transparency. Staffing shortages were another major factor in these incidents. In the November 2020 assault, non-unit personnel were monitoring due to insufficient staff, and backup was delayed. Malfunctioning equipment, such as radios and phones, left officers vulnerable and unable to call for help efficiently. Perhaps most controversially, the step-down program implemented since 2019 appeared to empower inmates at the expense of staff authority. Carlos Garcia, executive director of the Arizona Correctional Peace Officers Association, bluntly stated, "It's the inmates, as you can clearly see, who are running things here." The May 2021 stairwell incident seemed to validate this assessment, with inmates coordinating complex actions without apparent fear of consequences. Historical context made these videos even more significant. A 2019 ABC 15 investigation had revealed that cell doors in 3 units of Lewis Prison had been broken for years, with temporary fixes failing. Experts described the environment as one of the most chaotic and dangerous they had seen. Top ADCRR administrators, including then-Director Charles Ryan, were aware of these issues but failed to address them adequately, setting the stage for the 2020 to 2021 incidents. In response to these incidents and their exposure, ADCRR outlined several security enhancements: over 500 new radios, 46 walk-through metal detectors, 5 backscatter X-ray machines, a 5% pay increase for officers, provision of stab-proof vests, and a decrease of 673 beds since March 2020. However, the effectiveness of these measures remained unclear, and the lack of transparency on key issues like custody overrides suggested ongoing accountability challenges. What makes the Arizona prison videos distinct in our examination is their focus on violence against officers rather than inmates. They remind us that prison brutality flows in multiple directions and that systemic failures endanger everyone within correctional facilities, staff as well as inmates. The videos also highlight how policies ostensibly designed to manage prison populations more efficiently, like custody overrides and step-down programs, can have unintended consequences when implemented without adequate resources and oversight. The Arizona case illustrates how video evidence, even when not live-streamed by inmates, has become crucial to understanding prison dynamics and driving reform. Without these leaked surveillance videos, the extent of security failures and the real-world consequences of policy decisions might have remained hidden from public view. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.